New Orleans, Louisiana 70112. Dear Ms. Johnson, pursuant to my authority under Section 3-1075 of the Home Rule Charter of the City of New Orleans, there will be a special City Council meeting on Wednesday, October 14, 2020, beginning at noon. This meeting shall be conducted remotely via Zoom in the same manner of previous council meetings held during the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is being held for the purpose of considering a motion to authorize the filing of suit related to the collection of absentee ballots. Please make the necessary arrangements to have this special meeting cablecast live on the government access television channel and tape for recasting in the future. Sincerely, Jason Roger Williams, Council President. Roll call. Councilmember Wynn,
Here.
Councilmember Brissette,
Here.
Councilmember Williams,
Here.
Councilmember Moreno,
Present.
Councilmember Gibson Palmer,
Here.
Councilmember Banks,
Here.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Here.
We have 7 members. We have a quorum.
Madam Clerk, thank you. And thank you for moving very quickly to get this in front of the people. 2020 has been a challenging year by any rubric, but we did not expect to be fighting the battles of our mothers and fathers and theirs before them, along with everything else. We find ourselves tangled in a struggle for social justice and racial equity for months, and now we find ourselves trying to prevent voter suppression during the most important election of our lifetimes, and I would probably say our children's lifetimes. So with that being said, I'd like to kick it over to our Vice President, who has been very diligent in trying to counsel our Secretary of State and others just to do the right thing, to no avail. Madam Vice President.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and thank you so much for calling this special meeting today. What we are considering today is a motion to authorize a lawsuit against the Secretary of State. This motion is authored by all 7 council members. So here's what we're dealing with. As we all know, there has been a really huge uptick in the requests for absentee ballots. And in a recent interview that I saw from the Secretary of State, he's saying that the majority of these requests are coming from the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. So if we think about why people are requesting more absentee ballots, it's of course very likely because of COVID and the pandemic that is still very present in our state. I'm sure that many people are concerned about going into buildings, and so they're requesting these ballots because they themselves may have some type of pre-existing condition that should they get COVID, they could possibly become terminally ill, or they could be living with someone that has this type of pre-existing condition and they're trying to protect that person. So there's those concerns about COVID, right? And at the same time, for those people who are requesting an absentee ballot, there is also some concern about the mail system, the post office system. And much of that is actually being fueled by the president right now. And so you kind of put all of that together. We knew that there needed to be an additional option to have kind of an easy and safe way for people to be able to drop off their absentee ballots. So I have to tell you that, initially the council was very supportive of the Secretary of State allowing for curbside drop-off locations of absentee ballots. So the way that this would work is, voters would not have to go into a building. They would be met by employees of the registrar at the curb to turn in their ballot. And if someone else was turning in their ballot, like an immediate family member, all of the related paperwork as well. So the process would be just the same as if someone were walking into the registrar's office today, but instead it would be at a curbside location for additional safety. The council was also very supportive of our registrar as she took steps to have multiple secure locations around the city for curbside drop-offs that she planned to staff with her employees. This no doubt would have helped with accessibility, particularly those living in certain neighborhoods like New Orleans East, like the Ninth Ward. We live in a city where a significant portion of our residents do not have access to a car. So putting absentee curbside drop-off locations in many different neighborhoods staffed by ROV employees just made all the sense in the world. Unfortunately, though, we were notified at the end of September that curbside drop-offs would only be available at the registrar's office at City Hall and maybe at the satellite office in Algiers. Since then, we, the council, have asked the Secretary of State to reconsider this limitation. Clearly, this puts larger cities at a disadvantage. Clearly, this puts poor people who have requested an absentee ballot at a disadvantage. We've been told by the Secretary of State that it is state law that prohibits from drop-offs occurring at any location other than an ROV office. But we believe he is inaccurately interpreting the law. At the end of the day, no one wants to end up in court. But unfortunately, we have come to the point where we have no choice. We are not going to be bullied. This council will not be bullied by terse letters from the Secretary of State wanting us to back down. We want the election process to be safe and to be accessible, and we will do all that we can to fight to make sure that that happens. At the recommendation of our executive council, we are here today considering this motion to proceed with a lawsuit. And I'm proud that we are doing this because we are fighting for the voting rights of the people of New Orleans. I do have one amendment, though, that I would like to put up for consideration. This adds the law department to this motion. I was contacted yesterday by our city attorney, Sonny LaBeouf, who reached out wanting to support this lawsuit and for her team to also be able to help our executive counsel, Adam Swensick. So I so very much appreciate our city attorney reaching out and wanting to join this particular effort with the council. It'll just make it for sure a stronger team that is being led by Adam Swensick, our executive counsel. So thank you so much to Ms. LaBeouf and her team. So before I open it up to other members to make comments, I would like to first adopt this amendment. And is it
council member, procedurally, my suggestion is that you simply read the amendment prior to, since we will be voting on the amendment. I would suggest that you read the amendment in full, allow council members to speak, go to public comment, and then we take up the vote on the amendment after public comment.
Sounds good. Okay, got it. So sure. So that'll turn it over to our clerk, Ms. Johnson, if you'd like to read the amendment.
I don't have an amendment.
Or Mr. Swensick, if you'd like to read the amendment.
First, but council member, I first need to read the motion into the record first.
Perfect.
And
okay.
then
Go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
we have motion M20-324A by council members Moreno, Williams, Jeruso, Banks, Gissison, Palmer, Brissette, and Nguyen. A motion authorizing and directing the executive council of the city council to institute litigation to enjoin implementation and enforcement of the Secretary of State's policy respecting the collection of absentee ballots and to pursue any other claim reasonably related thereto. Executive council is authorized to assert any claims, to add parties, and to take any other steps he deems reasonably necessary to effectuate the foregoing, and shall have the authority to settle any claims and to appeal any adverse rulings. That is the motion.
And Adam, will you read that amendment?
I will. It is an amendment to motion M20-324A by Councilmember Moreno by request. In the second line of the paragraph beginning with "be it moved," add, quote, in coordination with the law department after the word council. That is the amendment.
Thank you, Adam. So we'll consider that after we come back from public comment, but I would like to open it up to other council members if they would like to make any statements.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Thank you. I just want to say, I guess what you said, Madam Vice President, is something that resonates with me. Is I don't think we look to go to have fights with anybody. We don't look to go pick fights, and we certainly don't run to the courts arbitrarily or unnecessarily. But sometimes the only way to do something, and now having been sued in my official capacity a number of times, you understand the necessity of why we have these different branches of government and the system that we have. And if you just look at the language, and I pulled it up while you were speaking, it says, the ballot shall be marked as provided in a different section and returned to the registrar by the United States Postal Service, a commercial carrier, or hand delivery. And it doesn't say hand delivery at any one place. And when I read things that say that Evangeline Parish, that has literally almost a tenth of the population of New Orleans, has 3 separate places that they can drop off their ballots, and we have nearly 400,000 people and we only have 2, that's a discrepancy. And much like other things that we do in the city, whether we have the main campus library, but you have the beautiful library uptown, or the library, in Lakeview, and Nord facilities like Joe Brown in New Orleans East, this is an important right that we have for people, and to facilitate that, to make it easy for people, to make it better for people, to make it safe, is something that doesn't seem like it is a partisan divide. It's something that we should all be working on together to make it as easy, as accessible, as transparent, and following the rules as possible. So I just wanted to add that, and I appreciate the ability to comment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember Jeruso. Councilmember Palmer.
Thank you, council members. I just want to add my voice to this. I also think it's, I think having our right to vote is the basis of our democracy, right? And we all know what we've been experiencing over the past several months in terms of this heightened scrutiny of this election, irresponsible comments being made at every level of government, especially from our president, and it's cast dispersions upon this election and therefore the outcome. And then when you have Councilmember Jeruso stating things as well, that you have smaller, less populated, more conservative parishes having more access to voting than Orleans Parish, it's a problem. And then it also negates all the tremendous work that has been going on in this city and in Baton Rouge and cities all across the state and country of people, getting people out there to register to vote and talking about the importance of voting and the excitement that's been generated around that. And I think if we don't do something like this, we are also saying that doesn't matter, that doesn't count. And so we also have to do this to honor the incredible amount of work that has been going on to ensure that we get more people out there to exercise their basic right to vote during this period. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Palmer. Councilmember Brosette.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Councilmember Moreno, and to all the points that have just been mentioned, that the ability to vote is one of the fundamental rights of democracy. In Louisiana's voting system should be accessible, safe, fair, and flexible for all voters. Despite our country presently facing unprecedented times due to the pandemic, COVID-19, in less than 1 month, it will be presented with what is arguably the most important presidential election of our lifetime. But instead, taking measures to ensure that the democratic process operates as smoothly as possible during this pandemic. It's unfortunate that some have taken measures that only add to its confusion. Unfortunately, again, this type of activity isn't new. The pandemic is exposing voter suppression that many of us, our parents, our grandparents, have experience for decades in fighting against for years. Some in our nation have been aggressively rolling back the voting rights that African Americans fought for during the civil rights movement. This is why, colleagues and members of the public, this is why, as state representative in 2012, I authored Section 1813OB of the Election Code to specifically expand absentee vote by mail access, which allows ballots to be mailed or hand delivered to the register by the Postal Service, a commercial courier, or someone other than a voter. I authored this legislation because the public interest is best served when voters have as many ways as possible to cast their ballots. When voters can choose to cast their ballots on a day, time, and in a manner that does not conflict with family, work, or healthcare obligations and concerns, they are more likely to participate in the electoral process. Improving access and considering, the needs of all voters during this pandemic will not just protect our health, it will protect the fundamental rights of our citizens to participate in a democratic process free of obstruction. And these issues with mail processing and the ill-advised policies that are being thwarted by the federal government onto the United States Postal Service is nothing new. Bringing that legislation in 2012 was one of the reasons the mail processing issue, if you all recall, there was the federal government was talking about closing down the mail processing plant here in New Orleans and in Lafayette. And there was concerns about ballots being processed in time and people's votes being cast and counted in time for the presidential election. And that is why I brought the legislation then. It's pertinent now, and I wholeheartedly support this motion and the following of this suit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brossette. Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello to everyone out there listening, and I would hope that the people listening would pay very keen attention to what's happening. And the idea of voter suppression is not some foreign concept. This is not happening in some third world puppeteer country run by a dictator. This is happening right here in the United States. And it's not happening on a rare basis. This is happening every day across this country, being preached about, talked about, encouraged by the president on down. Now, what everybody out here listening should pay attention to, the more that they try to get you not to vote, the deeper you should dig in to go and vote. Every single effort that is put up to prohibit you from casting your vote means you should put up 2 more efforts to get there to vote. Now, it's a basic question. If these folks are trying that hard to stop you from voting, there must be a reason for that. There must be a real reason why there's an orchestrated national effort to disenfranchise segments of this country from being able to voice their opinions on who needs to lead this country. It's that simple. Now, I hear all the noise and I get the stupid emails and I get the stupid phone calls and the stupid stuff on Facebook too. I see all of that. But let me tell you, standing up for democracy is not partisan, it's patriotic. It is what we're all charged to do as Americans. This is the greatest democracy on the planet. Yet we have to fight to let people participate in it. Just think about how crazy that sounds. This should be a no-brainer for everyone. Even the folks who happen to have different letters in front of their names, whether it's Aura or D or I or whatever it happens to be. If the democratic system is in jeopardy, you are. Because see, the way it is now, you've got one side driving the train. But eventually the pendulum will shift. And what happens when the other side drives the train and they're driving it against you? You see, that's why it's so important to make sure this balance stays in place and everybody has the opportunity, because sooner or later the worm's gonna turn. And then what? This is an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. It's truly unfortunate that as a legislative body, that as elected officials, that just as Americans, we got to stand up and yell about giving fellow citizens the opportunity to cast a vote. This is an embarrassment. Now, I don't know the secretary. I think I met him once or twice. I don't know what's in his head and his heart. But I really wish that he would not make us have to do this. The question is, what y'all afraid of? What is it that you don't want to happen? Because hearing the voice of the people is how we all got here. And I think we all ought to be intentional in making sure that nothing impedes that process. I am standing here as a part of this. Sorry that we have to do it, but this must be done. And whether we win in court or not, the reality of it is, hopefully we will win in the court of public opinion. Because everybody listening ought to be charged up to make sure that this kind of foolishness is not successful. If you let them stop you, they win. And if they win, it's assured that you lose. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I just wanted to echo with my colleagues. Council Member Moreno, you indicated, underserved community like the Low Nine in the East. My office has been receiving calls in reference to today as we're taking up this issue that residents are concerned of. How do they get their ballot to the register office? So I really appreciate the effort that the council is taking. I know that we are bombarded with many issues on a day-to-day basis, but we haven't given up. So I want to just congratulate you and keeping up your strength as we are working to continue to fight to make sure that there's fairness in our community. And as Councilmember Banks indicated, and even Councilmember Brissett, voting is a fundamental. We want to make sure that everybody have access to vote, no matter where they live, no matter which neighborhood they come from, and that accessibility is really critical. So colleagues, as I sit here to listen to your comment, I am super proud to be on the council with you. Thank you for your energy, your commitment on everyday issues. And so I stand with you on this motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Nguyen. And I echo that sentiment about being really proud of this council. But I gotta say, I thought we already won this fight. I thought we had dealt with this a long time ago. And whether you are a strict constructionist or a conservative that believes in philosophy of textualism, as Councilmember Giarrusso laid out, the law is pretty clear here. We are correct. We are on the right side morally of this, and we are on the right side of the letter of the law. So Councilmember Banks, I'll say to you, I believe that we will absolutely win in court. I believe in the rule of law, and I believe that there's precedent that supports us as well, based upon what's happened in Ohio. And we can't stand anything that resembles anything that looks like voter suppression, especially while we're in the midst of one of the largest reckonings of discrimination and prejudice in our nation's history. It's kind of hard to look at the Secretary of State's latest decision as merely incidental, when just last month on National Voter Registration Day, the Secretary of State website was down for scheduled maintenance. Just seems odd. Just seems very odd. So with that being said, I think we need to go into recess so we can take public comment and come back and vote unanimously to protect the sacred right to vote.
How long is the recess, Mr. President?
I think we have to do 30. Is that correct? We've got to
Well,
do 30.
What I will suggest in the interest of expediency, the Attorney General's guidelines indicate 30 minutes is a kind of default reasonable position. We do that for ordinary council meetings. Given that there is only one item under consideration, I would suggest that a 10-minute recess is a reasonable period for public comment for purposes of the open meetings law.
Thank you for weighing in, Adam. I know we've already received some public comment as well. So I would move to put us in a recess for 10 minutes to allow for more public comment. Second by Madam Vice President. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous vote, Madam Clerk. Is that 10, Madam Clerk?
Okay, we're ready?
I believe we're ready to go. I believe Andrew Tizzulo will be reading the public comments today.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me reestablish our
Thank you,
quorum,
sir.
please. Councilmember Nguyen. Councilmember Brissette. Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Moreno.
Present.
Councilmember Gissison Palmer. Councilmember Banks.
Present.
I'm present.
Okay, Councilmember Jeruso. I see Councilmember Nguyen has returned. Councilmember Jeruso. We have 6 members. We have a quorum.
Ready when you are, Andrew.
Yes, sir. So there are four public comments, and I'll read them as they came. And if I'm reading too fast, please let me know. So public comment number 1 is from Rebecca Meriwether. She's representing herself. She says, as a physician and a public health epidemiologist who is at high risk for COVID-19 and allowed to vote by absentee ballot, I'm grateful that the Orleans Parish Registrar's Office is making it possible for me to assure that my ballot is received by Election Day and that I can drop it off in a way that makes me feel having contact with anyone who might be infected with COVID-19. This is a common sense response to ensuring the right to vote and election security while allowing people to optimize social distancing in a way that keeps them and election workers safe. Please take all legal action to prevent the Secretary of State's office from suppressing our right to vote safely. Thank you to the council for standing up for all of us. The second comment is from Betty DeMarco. I'll read their addresses, I'm sorry, 8221 Birch Street, New Orleans. Ms. DeMarco says, for the first time, I'm voting absentee ballot. I was relieved to see that New Orleans would be allowing absentee ballots to be dropped off at early voting locations around the city. Please do not allow the Louisiana Attorney General to prevent me from being able to drop off my ballot at one of the early vote locations. Comment number 3 is from Alice Glenn, 1811 Joseph Street. Ms. Glenn applauds the council for pursuing legal action to allow every available resource for our citizens to vote safely and securely in the November election. The tactics our Secretary of State and other government officials are using to manipulate statute and suppress voting should not be left unchallenged. As we have seen so many times through our nation's history, laws are made and used to make it harder for certain citizens to participate in this most fundamental civic duty. That Louisiana's leaders would do anything but ensure that any eligible citizen who wishes to vote can do so safely and efficiently, particularly in this uncertain time, is unconscionable, un-American, and cannot stand. The fourth comment is from David Smith from the Louisiana Attorney General's office. Mr. Smith says, Honorable New Orleans City Council members, it has been brought to the attention of the Office of the Attorney General of Louisiana that today's special meeting, scheduled to begin at noon, the council intends to consider and may vote on a motion to institute litigation that would seek to, quote, enjoin implementation and enforcement of the Secretary of State's policy respecting the collection of absentee ballots and to pursue any other claim reasonably related thereto. Further, the proposed motion would authorize the council's executive council to assert any claims, add parties, take any steps he deems necessary to effectuate the lawsuit. The Attorney General's office will, in all likelihood, represent one or more of the defendants that may be named in the proposed suit, and additionally, as Chief Legal Officer of the state, pursuant to Louisiana Constitutional Article 4, Section 8, would have an interest in the subject and proceedings of the suit. Therefore, the Office of the Attorney General requests, without waiving any necessary formalities of citation and service of named defendants, that if the council approves the motion and authorizes the filing of the proposed lawsuit, that copies of any pleading and other filings and notice of any hearings or other scheduled court matters be provided to the Attorney General. Copies and notices may be sent to attention Tom Jones, David Jetty Smith Jr., Lauren Sudeth, Jeffrey Whale, Jeff Landry, Attorney General, Office of Louisiana Attorney General, Louisiana Department of Justice, 3rd Street, Baton Rouge, and then their emails. And those are the 4 public comments.
Thank you, Adam. Madam Vice President, you'd like to move adoption?
First, I need to adopt the amendment. Adam, do we need to read it into the record again?
No,
I
I think
believe
it's been read.
It's been
Okay,
read.
so I'll move adoption on the amendment. If I could get a second, please.
Second.
Second on the amendment.
All right, seconded by Councilmember Banks. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Councilmember Wynn,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Williams,
Aye.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gisselson Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays, and the amendment has been adopted.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And now I'll move adoption on the motion as amended. If I can get a second, please.
Second.
Seconded by the Council President. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember,
Yay.
Councilmember Brissette,
Yay.
Councilmember Williams,
Yay.
Councilmember Moreno,
Yay.
Councilmember Gisselson Palmer,
Yay.
Councilmember Banks,
Yay.
Councilmember Jeruso.
Yay.
We have 7 yeas, no nays. Motion 2324A has been adopted as amended.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I would move to adjourn the special meeting.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Jerusalem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote for adjournment.
Adjournment.
See you on the second floor, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.